Yes. All right. Thank you for watching your very first Edpuzzle homework assignment of the year. You're going to use Edpuzzle often, and you're going to really like it. My students last year loved it. We're going to be hitting geography skills pretty hard right now because we want to do mystery Skypes. Before we can do a mystery Skype, we've got to know what we're talking about with geography. First of all, we know there are 7 continents in the world. Our continent is that of North America, which contains, of course, the United States. North of us is Canada. South of us, of course, is Mexico. And there are several islands, North American islands, like the Dominican Republic, where I actually went this summer. It was awesome. We've got North America. We've got South America. We've got Europe. We've got Asia, which is the largest continent. It's also where Israel is located. We're going to have pen pals this year in Israel. A very small country. There's Africa. There is Australia, which is the smallest continent. And there's Antarctica, which is the coldest continent, of course. We know there are 4 oceans in the world. We've got, to the east of the United States, we've got the Atlantic Ocean. When I traveled to Israel 2 summers ago, we flew over the Atlantic and landed in Israel. Okay. To the west of the United States is the Pacific Ocean. We know the world is round, so if you were to fly or take a boat on the Pacific Ocean, when you get to Asia, you would go through the Pacific Ocean knowing the world is round. We've got the Arctic Ocean, which is freezing, very cold. We've got the Indian Ocean, which borders, of course, shockingly, India. All right. We're going to be talking about some ways to break various continents into different sections. We're going to be talking about something called lines of latitude. Latitude. One way that I remember lines of latitude, I think latitude, attitude. I think of somebody with attitude might do one of these things. Latitude, attitude. Latitude lines run east-west. In fact, the 0-degree latitude line, sorry, it's not a very straight line, but this line at 0 degrees latitude is called the equator. Equator. The equator line is 0 degrees latitude, and it divides the world into 2 halves. The north half, or the north hemisphere, and the southern half, or the southern hemisphere. So the north hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, like northern, southern, sorry for my bad handwriting. So clearly we're located north of the equator, so we're in the northern hemisphere. Clearly South Africa is located south of the equator, so it's in the southern hemisphere. Clearly Australia is located south of the equator, so it's in the southern hemisphere. Iran, here's the equator. Iran is north of the equator. It's in the northern hemisphere. Okay. Your first question is going to be about the country Finland. That's Finland right there. Okay. Cool. Another dividing line is called the prime meridian. The prime meridian is at 0 degrees longitude. Longitude. Longitude lines, longitude is spelled like this. Yes, you can read it. Longitude lines run north-south. 0 degrees longitude is called the prime meridian. Prime meridian. And if you think of Meridian, I guess, road or Meridian Street, Meridian Avenue in Indianapolis, it goes north-south and it divides the city of Indianapolis in half, basically. On the east of the prime meridian is the eastern hemisphere. And on the west of the prime meridian, we've got the western hemisphere. So the United States, we are west of that prime meridian. We're on the western hemisphere. Israel, where our pen pals are going to be located, they're on the east of the prime meridian, so they're on the eastern hemisphere. Western hemisphere, eastern hemisphere. So my next question is going to be about South America. We are actually located in two hemispheres. If you think of the equator, remember north of the equator is the northern hemisphere. South of the equator is the southern hemisphere. Remember, we also have a prime meridian. East of the prime meridian is the eastern hemisphere. West of the prime meridian is the western hemisphere. So so North America, specifically the United States, specifically Indiana, we are north of the equator and west of the prime meridian. So we are located in the northern hemisphere and also the western hemisphere. We're in two hemispheres. We're north of the equator, so we're in the northern hemisphere. We're west of the prime meridian, so we're in the western hemisphere too. We're both in the north and the west of the world, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Here's my question. It's about the country of China. We're learning about China with Mr. Tai and learning Chinese. It's in two continents. Look at the equator. Is it north or south of the equator? Look at the prime meridian. Is China located east or west of the prime meridian? Okay, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you tomorrow.